Good afternoon, I'm Derrick Rose. Right here in Kentuckiana, there are families whose long search for justice continues with nothing but grief and heartache. They simply want to know who killed their loved one. WHAS 11 is committed to helping these families as well as investigators through a project we call Inside Investigations. We re-examine homicide cases that have remained unsolved for years, and we launched this effort with the family of Dennis Scholes. We also met with the lead investigator on the case to talk about that night and the investigation since. LMPD defines a cold case as one that has not had an arrest in at least 2 years, but Dennis Scholes' family has been waiting for answers far longer than that.
Music has always been very important to Dennis and I. The stars were out, and it was just the two of us, and we were taking our time. It was down country roads and stuff like that. And there was a song by Jimmy Eat World. May angels lead you in. We held hands, and we were talking about Teta, my Teta, who had just passed away. So what would you think of me now? And so now that song, of course, when I hear it, I think of him.
The memory of Dennis Scholes is the heartbeat of the people who knew him best. Brother Bob, Sister Sarah, and Mother Diane.
I've thought more than once that in this situation, I'm blessed that I was Dennis's mother, as hard as his death was, because I don't have to be his murderer's mother, and I can't imagine what that must be like.
It's been 3 years since the question started. Who killed Dennis Scholes and why? It's been 3 years and still no answers.
And we want whoever did this to pay for what they did, not just because he's my brother, but who do you think you are? That you can just take someone's life and get away with it?
April 2014, a roommate found Dennis's body in the 700 block of Louisville Avenue in the Highlands.
This was an area where, we haven't had a ton of violent crime.
Sergeant Nick Owen was Detective Nick Owen at the time and was the lead investigator on the Scholes case. Detective Owen knew two things. Scholes died of a single gunshot wound, and he died at his front door.
He was on his front porch, and, it appears that he was getting ready to enter his home, and unfortunately never made it inside.
Detective Owen knew he had to try to find the killer by learning more about the victim, but he could find no one who wanted to harm Dennis Scholes.
A lot of really, really close friends. I think a lot of people were touched by this, and a lot of them reached out to me to kind of tell me that. I haven't found anybody that said anything bad about him, and I've talked to a lot of people.
Dennis is just the best person I've ever met, ever, in every way. In every capacity. He just exemplified what everyone would want to be if they could.
To Dennis, his family was everything.
When we were together, as siblings, brothers and sister, we would just cut up, goof off, tell jokes.
Dennis was great at making people laugh, even if it meant causing a scare.
I remember the most scared I've ever been in my life is the time when he jumped out from behind the bed and freaked me out. I screamed
I remember the scream.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Standing tall at 6'4" to the children, he was a big man with a bigger heart.
When it got to the point when I had kids, he was an awesome, amazing uncle. He would just come over and let the kids climb all over him and you just wrestle with them and just play with them, take them out for ice cream and stuff like that. So, I couldn't have ever imagined a better brother than what I had in Dennis.
His mother keeps a bookshelf honoring Dennis. At the top, a pencil drawing done by one of his co-workers and presented to the family at his funeral.
He was good looking too, wasn't he?
Dennis majored in art at the University of Louisville and was just starting to enjoy watercolors.
So he did this series of the 3 Chanel bottles, which we just really like, and a friend of his had them made into cards after he passed away.
His love of fashion included some stylish hats, which Diane keeps on a wall inside their home.
And then as I come across photos of him wearing the different hats, I put the photos on the wall too.
Along with those memories of Dennis, his loved ones still have the questions of who and why anyone would want to kill him. From the beginning, police have had very little physical evidence. Now they're hoping someone will come forward and give them new information.
And you can do that for years, and you're just waiting for that one interview that breaks it open.
For Diane, she imagined what she would say to Dennis's killer if that time ever came.
There were a lot of questions that I had, like, what were my son's last words? Did he see you before you shot him to death?
And for Bob, he's hoping that killer can see the pain left behind.
I want to see them have to just face up to what they've done and, you know, and see me looking them in the eyes and my family looking them in the eyes and all of Dennis's friends looking them in the eyes and just saying, how could you? You know, how could you have done that to such a kind and loving person? And just, you know, just to have to come to that moment, I think it'll be worth it.
For Sister Sarah, she wants them to feel every heartache.
I hope they can't sleep at night. I hope they can't eat. I hope their life is literally tortured because of what they did to him.
In the meantime, they'll depend on their faith and wait for the wheels of justice to turn in their favor. Now to the death of Western Kentucky University student Cheryl Williamson, whose murder on Thanksgiving weekend outside a downtown Louisville event space remains unsolved 5 years after the crime. The circumstances surrounding her death may sound familiar and spark plenty of memories. Police hope those memories will turn into new leads.
It was one of the best pageants that WKU has had thus far.
Well, this is for the big chick.
Her spunk and her attitude, like her confidence and her attitude.
The girls who will step their bellies in and embrace them like, just love it.
I mean, she was serious about it.
Cheryl Williamson had the crowd on their feet when she performed at this pageant on her college campus, a role she took on in real life. She
would walk to class like she was in the pageant. She would leave class like she was in the pageant. She would dress like she was in the pageant. She lived the pageant.
Terrence Williams met Cheryl at Western Kentucky University. He was new to the campus, and Cheryl took him under her wing.
From there, we just clicked, and we were inseparable from then.
The year was 2007. Terrence, a first-generation college freshman. Cheryl, a sophomore.
So we basically were each other's support system.
Not just for Terrence, the support left an impact on Cheryl's friends that will last a lifetime.
Cheryl was one of the many reasons why I myself and a few other people graduated.
Despite the help she gave others toward their goal of graduation, that day would never come for Cheryl.
She wanted to graduate, and it was only months before, and she wasn't able to.
It was November 25th, 2012. Cheryl arranged a trip back to Louisville from Bowling Green for the Thanksgiving holiday, but a day of celebration turned into a night of tragedy.
It was a big loss. It still is.
Cheryl and her friends wanted to get together for a night of fun, so they came downtown to the Gillespie, where there was a party and hundreds of people celebrating. They were all having fun when all of a sudden a fight broke out. And as people were headed for the door, someone pulled out a gun and started shooting. And Cheryl was hit.
We had a really, really good time. And I wouldn't ever think that that would be our last time together.
Doctors performed surgery, but Cheryl did not pull through. Louisville Metro Police Sergeant Anthony Wilder was a detective in the homicide unit. He was assigned to Cheryl's case and called to the scene to investigate.
Still to this day, out of hundreds of potential witnesses that were leaving that club and seen or heard or have talked about it, no one has come forward.
Cheryl's friends were stunned. Words tough to come by, especially for those who were with Cheryl moments before she was killed.
Stop the violence!
We spoke to Cheryl's mother at that time, and for Donetta Williamson, she remembered her daughter's passion and dedication and how much she loved Western.
Her life, that was her world. You know, it's something she wanted to do, and she worked hard at it. And then her life ended.
Donetta told us there was a knock at her door around 4 on a Sunday morning. She was already awake, waiting for Cheryl to come home for her night out, but Cheryl was not there. Instead, it was LMPD.
That's obviously one of the hardest things that you have to do as a homicide detective is speak with the family under those circumstances.
For Detective Wilder, cases like this take an emotional toll on investigators as well as families he's come across.
Sometimes the first contact that we have with the victim's family is not only trying to figure out information from them, but we're there and we're going to tell them about their loved one's death all in one conversation. So that's very hard to deal with.
She was brokenhearted. She was really brokenhearted.
4 years after her daughter's death, Donetta Williamson also passed away. She died just before Christmas last year, not knowing who killed her daughter or why. The same questions still linger for detectives.
What I personally think about is the fact that the person that did this, what else have they done since then?
But Terrence tries not to think about it. He'd rather concentrate on his friend and what she would want him to do without her.
All of those good memories, they still lie in my mind. I just still miss her and would just much rather have her back to build more memories.
Our look inside the investigation into the murder of Cheryl Williamson does not end there. On the other side of this break, an ironic twist for Williamson's best friend as he tried to move on from the pain of losing someone so close.
It really just gave me a flashback. Like I never seen this girl before.
Next, the situation Terrence Williams found himself in, a tragic feeling of deja vu, and the help he received from a fallen friend. Part 2 of our look inside the investigation, the Cheryl Williamson case, right after this break. Part 2 of our WHAS 11 News I-Team investigation, the murder of Cheryl Williamson. She was a Western Kentucky University student who was home here in Louisville for the Thanksgiving holiday back in 2012. She was gunned down outside an event space in downtown Louisville, located in what is usually one of the city's safest blocks near 5th and Market. Our investigation continues. Terrence Williams was trying to move on after the death of his best friend, Cheryl Williamson. She was killed in a shooting during a party at the Gillespie in downtown Louisville in 2012.
All of those good memories, they still lie in my mind. I just still miss her and would just much rather have her back to build more memories.
In his process of moving forward, Terrence found himself at the Tim Faulkner Gallery. It was March 19th, 2017, and again, hundreds of people there, and again, another fight followed by gunfire. This time, University of Louisville student Savannah Walker was the person killed, one of several people who were shot that night, and Terrence was there too.
It really just gave me a flashback. Like I never seen this girl before, but I mean, it just still hit home with me, and I know her family wants answers.
In the middle of the chaos, something kicked in. Perhaps it was instinct. Perhaps he had help from an angel.
There was also another girl who got shot there, and I helped her just because of my friend and what happened to her.
Terrence helped get that young lady to a hospital, and she survived her injuries. But it still means another case on the books for homicide detectives.
If we can start getting some cooperation and people coming forward, you know, maybe that'll give pause to somebody before they pull that trigger next time, because they'll think about getting caught.
For them, they need help solving these cases, and time is not an issue.
We're not concerned with why it's taking you 5 years to come forward with this information. We just want the information.
It's been 5 years and the pain is still fresh for Terrence. Cheryl and Terrence both had a love for fashion design, and he's continuing that work today. His inspiration drawn from Cheryl in a message he received after her death.
I found a book when we were cleaning out her room, and she was writing about me. And, whoa, sorry. She said, as much as I've learned from her, I've unknowingly showed her and taught her so much.
Since Cheryl's death, Terrence has become the father of 2 girls of his own. It was a life cut short, but had an impact as big as Cheryl's smile. And although his best friend's murder remains unsolved, he knows his greatest responsibility is to continue to make her proud.
Just know that my daughters know who she is.
44, 42, 46.
There's no free pass. You know, this is a murder. You know, it's and we'll never quit on it.
Perhaps you know the truth about who killed Michael Harris Sr., a local basketball player. His case still unsolved 10 years after the crime. We go inside the investigation after the break.
Keno. Learn how to have fun every 4 minutes.
This next case has been unsolved longer than any of the stories we've profiled. It's been a decade since Michael Harris Sr. was shot dead in Louisville's Russell neighborhood. The Harris family wants you to watch this story because 10 years is far too long to wait for justice.
I loved playing with him. That was a game that we both loved to play.
A love of the game shared between father and son. Mike Harris Jr. has fond memories of his time with his dad.
When I was younger, we was active, very active. We would go place to place. I think Hooters was our favorite place to go. So
his family remembers young Mike's father as the life of the party, even if it meant he was the last to arrive.
He's the one that likes to be the last one coming the door because he wants everybody to ooh and ah over him.
And it was in those times his family shared plenty of laughs.
His laugh was the biggest one. He had the most craziest laugh to me. It made me smile.
He was always had this laughter that would just crack you up. It was like if you heard that laughter, you knew he was around.
Mike Sr. played basketball at Jeffersonville High School. His coach and teammates were like a second family.
Mom, Coach Broughton's gonna take us over his house. I'm gonna eat dinner with him. I'm like, okay, Mike, but you can't do this every night. You got to come home.
Mike Sr.'s basketball career would take him north to Terre Haute and Indiana State University. An example that showed Mike Jr. his passion for the sport could lead him just as far.
Basketball, even though it's just a game, it's more than that to me because it's my memory of him. And that memory can go on for the rest of my life.
10 years old at the time, life was just beginning for Mike Jr. Days before Christmas, 2007, Mike Sr.'s mother had a feeling something was wrong when he did not show up for the family's annual Christmas gathering. At home later that night, a knock at the door.
I walked to the door and I seen two detectives at the door. And I said, I don't want to hear it. Whatever it is you got to tell me, I don't want to hear it, because I knew that was not a good sign.
Sherry could not escape the news. Her son had been murdered. Mike Jr. was there with his grandmother. The bad news was kept away from him. But when relatives started to show up at the house, their feelings could not be hidden.
I mean, my grandmother was in the room, well, I guess with one of her sisters, and they was holding each other crying. Everybody was just crying. I didn't know what happened.
Metro Police say it was in the middle of the day on a Saturday afternoon when they got the call for a suspicious vehicle. It was in the area of 17th and Plymouth Court in the Russell neighborhood. Mike Sr.'s body was found inside a vehicle parked behind the Plymouth Court apartments.
Did he know somebody over there? Did somebody have him meet him over there? I don't know. Obviously something had to, I guess, push him over there.
I don't know why or who would have done what they did for whatever reason. I don't have a clue.
Detectives canvassed the area hoping to find clues or a witness that could give them some answers.
There's a sense of loss that, that comes along with, not only do they lose their loved one, but not knowing exactly why. And we want to try to provide that.
It was the next day Mike Jr. learned what happened to his father.
And it took my mother to tell me that my father passed away. I cried instantly. I didn't know what happened. I was probably the only one, and it just really just hit me hard. Because really just losing my best friend was the biggest thing.
For the next few years after his father's death, Mike Jr. felt broken. And it was not until he was almost 13 did he learn the circumstances behind his father's death.
Really, out of all these years, it took me probably eight years to truly know what forgiveness is. And I realized that if I forgave this person, it would release everything from me, and I would move on. Now, is it still painful? Yes, of course. But it's not going to hold me back.
Nearly a decade after the murder, detectives still visit the area where it happened because crime scene photos in a file don't always paint a clear picture. And so this is it.
It is. As you can see now, it's obviously things have been let go. It appears to be abandoned, the units and stuff, but this was occupied at the time. This was a little bit more well maintained at the time.
The apartment building there is empty now. Dozens of potential witnesses have moved on, But for homicide detectives, the case is never complete until there's an arrest.
There's no free pass. You know, this is a murder. You know, and we'll never quit on it.
I understand that it's hard to come forth and truly come out and say that, oh, this person did it. But truly, as a community, do you really want to stand back knowing that you know what happened? You just want to be that person and just stand back? Even if you do wrong your whole life, you did wrong, that one moment that you want to decide to do good will reflect who you are later on in your life.
If you have any information on any of these cases or any crime here in the Metro, police want you to come forward and call them at 574-LMPD. You can always remain anonymous. And if you have a story or a case you would like us to profile, you can contact us at iteam@WHAS11.com. For all of us here at WHAS 11 News, I'm Derrick Rose. Thanks for watching.